Ethics, a system of moral principles. The rules of conduct recognized in respect to a particular class of human actions or a particular group, culture, or etc. Ethics and business ethics. Ethics deal with individual character and the moral rules that govern and limit our conduct. It investigates questions of right and wrong, duty and obligation, and moral responsibility. Business ethics is the study of what constitutes right and wrong, or good and bad, human conduct in a business context. Ethics versus moral standards. Ethics is the study of what is right or wrong, constituting moral convictions. Moral standards are different than ethics because they concern behavior that is of serious consequence to human welfare that can profoundly injure or benefit people. Where do moral standards come from? History of morals. We must consider the relationship between morality and religion on the hand and between morality and society on the other. Some people maintain that morality just boils down to religion. Others have argued for the doctrine of ethical relativism, which says that right and wrong are only a function of what a particular society takes to be right and wrong. Does God command a particular action because it is morally right, or is it morally right because God commands it? Socrates. Religion versus morality. Religious morality is the moral convictions based on beliefs of benefits or punishment from a divine being. Morality standard morality is the internal moral conviction based on personality traits, peer pressure, and or upbringing. Having moral principles. Accepting a moral principle is not a purely intellectual act like accepting a scientific hypothesis or a mathematical theorem. Only when a person accepts a moral principle will that principle become part of his or her personal moral code. Then naturally the person will believe the principle is important and will be justified. Principles, a fundamental truth or proposition that serves as the foundation for a system of belief or behavior or for a chain of reasoning. Morality and personal values. Morality in the sense of the rules and principles that regulate one's conduct toward others can be distinguished from morality in the broader sense of the values, ideals, and aspirations that shape a person's life. Personal values are derived from the type of life each of us seeks to live. This life will reflect our personal values through our professions, community service, raising a family, and various other choices. Individual integrity and responsibility. No one lives in a vacuum. Social pressures of various sorts always affect us. Sometimes these pressures make it difficult to stick with our principles and to be the kind of person we wish to be. Corporations are a particularly relevant example of an environment that can potentially damage individual integrity and responsibility. Pressure to conform to the certain groups within a corporation and adhere to its norms and beliefs can lead to the surrender of individual moral autonomy. It is up to each individual to maintain their true nature and respective integrity for the sake of future generations. Moral reasoning. It is useful to view moral reasoning at first in the context of argument. An argument is a group of statements, one of which is claimed to follow from the others. A valid argument is one whose premises logically entails its conclusion. Moral reasoning or argument typically moves from a moral standard through one or more factual judgments about some person, action, or policy related to that standard to a moral judgment about that person, action, or policy. As you can see in the experimental trial, the person here is coming through their situational antecedent, their situations and proposal of moral violation, and the outcome of each action, the action and the inaction. Requirements for moral judgments. Moral discussion and the analysis of ethical issues can take different, often complicated paths. Nevertheless, moral judgments should be logical, based on facts, and based on sound or defensible moral principles. A moral judgment that is weak on any of these grounds is often to criticism. Defensible moral judgments. If a moral judgment or conclusion is defensible, then it must be supportable by a defensible moral standard. Together with relevant facts, a moral standard supports a moral judgment if the standard, taken together with the relevant facts, logically entails the moral judgment and if the moral standard itself is an acceptable standard. What would happen and who would you be when you start defending? A man does what he must in spite of personal consequences, in spite of obstacles and dangers and pressures, and that is the basis of all human morality. Winston Churchill.